As we continue in our series of Simplify, our scripture this morning is from Psalm 131, a song of ascents of David. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. But I have calmed and quieted my ambitions. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore.
Good morning. Y'all doing okay? Good. So we are in a series called Simplify, and I am talking about making a movement from anxious to peace. And one of the things that I've noticed lately is there's been a bit of a rising attention to a phrase or a mentality in our culture of life without limits. Like, have y'all seen that on books and posters and that kind of thing? Like, do anything you want, go for it, you can achieve anything. I saw this book online. It was literally called 10 Steps to Achieving Anything. There's just 10? Like, I didn't know I could be an astronaut in 10 things. You know, and then there was another book just a few steps down. Actually, when the book, it was a blog. It was 3 steps to achieving anything you've ever wanted. That guy figured it out in 3 steps, and all he did was write a blog? Like, I wonder, how do we do that? This, like, life without limits. Can I practice something with you guys? And this is going to be a little bit The Price is Right-y. Okay, so if I can get y'all to lean in, find your inner game show contestant. And I need 2 guys, preferably ones that are a little bit beefy. Can I get 2 folks to volunteer? I could really use your help. Now, 1, yes, Ben, awesome. You're up. Come on, man. And I need 1 more. And who is it? All right, come on down. That'd be great. Come on down, or whatever. Okay, all right. So while you guys are getting set up with Dave, I need the rest of y'all to practice a phrase with me. And this, don't say this like Methodists attending church. Say this like people who are excited about something. Okay, so I need you to say the phrase "life without limits" like you're kind of in a game show. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Life without limits.
That was really good. You guys are much better than the 5:30. They were just asleep last night. Oh, good job. Okay, that was great. Okay, so you guys, hold on. So this is my workout band, which gets all kinds of use at home. You just wouldn't believe it. And so this is my buddy Ben, and he represents the responsibility that comes with expanding your limits. Okay, and you are Sean. I had a Sean last service, and he represents the wants that kind of as we expand our limits, the things we lean into. I am going to read a script, and every time I talk about we're expanding our limits, the responsibility, you're going to take a step that way. And every time we talk about wants, you're going to take a step that way, a good, healthy step. Got it? All right, so responsibility. You get a promotion at work, right? Because you wanted a life without limits, okay? And so you can see that thing and you go for it. Okay, and then that leads to some wants. You can now afford a bigger truck, so take a step that way. Okay, responsibility. You have to pay more insurance on the truck. Responsibility that way. Wants. You want more time off for a big vacation. So wants. Take a step that way. Because you can have big vacation because you can have. Let's try it one more time. You can have a big vacation because you can have. Awesome. Okay, so that means you have to responsibility. You have to plan the big family vacation. Take a step. Okay, wants. Everyone wants to go to Disney World. 7 steps that way. No, sorry, just joking. Okay, all right, 1 step. Responsibility. You have to make the hard call that that's too much money. You're not going to Disney World. You tell everyone you're going to Holiday World. 1 step that way. Free sunscreen. What else do you want? And refills. Okay, wants. You want to look amazing all the time. That way. Not that you don't. Responsibility. You have to get up and go to the gym earlier. That way. Responsibility, you want to be a better boss. You got that promotion once. Take a step that way. I'm halfway done, guys. Hang in there. Responsibility, you are the boss. Now you have to deal with more problems that way. Anybody a little nervous? We've tested this. I'm sure it's sturdy. I bought it at Walmart. Hold on. Once you want to have a full-blown midlife crisis, step that way. Responsibility, you now have to take care of the infected tattoo you got because of the midlife crisis. Step that way. Once you want to have better friends, step that way. Responsibility, now you have to tell everyone how to live their lives because you need better friends. Step that way. Okay, can you guys just take a stop? Hold it. Because we want a... What happens if they keep going? It's going to break. Bring it in, guys. Can y'all give them a hand? Thank you, guys. I am so glad that lasted all 3 services because the church really could not take a lawsuit from someone losing their eye. Listen, thank you. We have all these wants and responsibilities that come with this idea of a life without limits. But here's the thing, one more time, can you give me a life without limits? It's stupid. It's stupid. Who doesn't have limits? Who doesn't? And why do we think that our limits are evil? Why do we think? And there's a time to stretch yourself and to grow and to take new capacity. And responsibility can be a good thing and wants can be a good thing. We're going to talk about that later. But a life without limits, who is the one being that has no limit? That would be God. Are you God? Am I God? I have limits. And about 2 years ago, I started running into my limits in a way that I hadn't before. It was new for me. I had grown and taken on more responsibility and more wants, and there's things I want to do, and I had taken on extra responsibility here, more than I was probably capable of, but I thought it sounded like a good idea. And then I started taking on responsibility outside of the church and doing like some consulting and helping other churches, and so there's travel, and then there's all this stuff that comes with speaking and preparation and phone calls and all that. And at home, I had a young, growing family, and my little girl didn't stop sleeping through the night till she was like 4. And we tried everything. And listen, guys, I was about to be on the news, and I started to feel like I was failing at work as a boss. Started to feel like I was failing at home, especially when you're a dad and you seriously consider throwing a child out a window. You don't feel like you're winning. And I did this thing in Springfield, and it was so great. In a couple of days there, worked all day, literally all day. Got up super early on a Tuesday morning, drove here, worked a full day here, went to rehearsal that night, got home, and was in full-on zombie mode. I didn't realize that I had been gradually depleting myself. And my wife that night had that moment of, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm good. And she leaned in and I'm so glad she's braver than I am. And she said, no, you're not okay. And I had the kind of breakdown that's not pleasant to see your husband have. The 11:30 at night on the floor in his underwear, ugly crying. Kind of breakdown, like, you're right, I'm not okay. I just didn't know that limits were a gift to receive. I thought that limits was only something to push back on and to grow past. I thought I was God. And when we run into limits, we have to discover something. And that's the beauty of living as a created being, not as the creator. Discovering to live like the person we are. And there's this little psalm that was a huge help to me. It's in the middle of our Bible, and it's this little prayer. It's just 3 verses long. And Psalm 131 says, a song of ascents of David. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with matters that are great or things too wonderful for me. but I have calmed and quieted my ambitions. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your hope in the Lord both now and forevermore. Do you know anybody that thinks like that? Who says things like, those matters are too great for me. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to have an opinion about them. I don't have to fight for what I think. That's okay. I can let that go. That is outside of my zone of responsibility. You know anybody who says, I've quieted my ambitions, and everyone around them says, oh, I'm so glad, as opposed to, you did what? You mean you're giving up on your dreams? Why are you not pursuing everything you could be, should be, want to be? Why are you not pushing back on all your limits? Like when do we celebrate someone saying, you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay. Because we add on more and more responsibility, and we add on more and more wants, and we live with the tension, and sometimes responsibility and wants are a gift from God, but when we just keep adding them on because we think that that's what we need to do, we end up getting ready to break. Or what's worse is if we aren't pursuing more responsibility or pursuing more wants, our culture has this guilt that gives you because you're not becoming everything you could be, should be, and I must just like stink at life. And we carry that around with us too. And I just look at this first verse. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. Can we just, we know, right, as followers of Jesus, that people with proud hearts and haughty eyes are not to be admired. Don't we know that? That people with proud hearts and haughty eyes are not to be followed or esteemed or looked up to because they look nothing like Jesus, right? He goes on, he says, I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. Of all the good things that have come with technology, one of the downsides is that we all think we're experts on everything, don't we? And we feel pretty free to tell everybody what we think. I can tell you what I think about how countries should interact and about education and about the military. And I think I know what's better about economic policy and this and that and the other. I feel pretty free to tell you how you should eat or how you should care about your health or how you should parent or what choices you should make for your kids. I feel like I know. I feel like, is there any matter that you know that is too great for you to comment on? Or how free do we feel just to fire our opinion off on social media or with our friends armchair quarterbacking the events of the world that seem not complex to us? And here the author of this psalm says, I don't concern myself with matters too great for me. I mean, what kind of freedom would that give people if we could drop that responsibility? And then there's this other thing. It's not just stuff out there. It's we want to control people. We take responsibility for each other in a way that's kind of messed up. Someone has something that looks wrong with them, or maybe something that's deeply broken, but we rob them of their responsibility to lead their life, and we take it from them, dehumanizing them, saying, I will fix you. I will be the thing that makes you better. I can solve your problems. If you would just give it to me, it would make me feel better. And when we take responsibility for people, we take their responsibility from them, we dehumanize them, and then we end up carrying all this responsibility for them, which it feels like it's out of love, but it ends up hurting them in the long run. How many of you in here have tried to help someone maybe struggling with an addiction only to find out that you're enabling along the way? And over and over again, we try to take responsibility from people, for people. And David says, I have not concerned myself with matters too great for me. Interestingly enough, in verse 2, he goes on. He says, I have calmed and quieted my ambitions. Now, that word ambitions is a nuanced, complicated word, difficult to translate. In the Hebrew, the word is nefesh. It could be passions or desires or wants. It could also be translated my soul or myself. It's that thing in us that makes us like human. It's that drive. And now notice, he doesn't say, I have killed my ambitions. He doesn't say, I threw my ambitions out the window. He says, I've told my ambition to be quiet. You can stay, but you can't drive. You get to be a passenger, you don't get the steering wheel. There's something else that gets the steering wheel in my life. And our wants are this endless cycle because we can never quite fully or finally satisfy our appetites. And we just keep churning. And our economy, this comes with prosperity, is not just marketing to our needs, and it's not just marketing to our wants. Because we have all our wants already satisfied, what they have to do to sell us things is they have to disrupt your sense of peace so that they can sell you something again. And like, for example, if I have a cordless drill and it works fine, it's not an amazing cordless drill, but I don't need one. I'm not a construction worker. I'm not drilling through concrete walls, right? I'm trying to fix the stuff around my house. But if I see a drill that now it has a little light on it, bing, and it has more torque, I feel like I should spend $150. Now, I didn't want a new drill until I saw it. Does that make sense? I didn't have a want. But adding a light on it, bing, created a want in me, and guess what? They can sell me something for just $150 to satisfy my want because I'm incapable of holding a flashlight. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so there's all of these products out there that are just, nobody wanted this already. Let me show you this one. Nobody wanted a hot tub boat because who wanted the chance to get in a boat and still drown? I mean, like, what is that? Or check this one out. This one's great. This is a self-stirring chocolate milk mug because there was somebody that had a cup of milk, put chocolate syrup in it, and went, what do I do now? Or this one, in kind of a similar category. You can buy this at Walmart today. This is a self-twirling spaghetti fork, battery operated. Just in case you can't do this. Right? But you don't want that until you're walking down the aisle and you're like, that's funny. And you get it, right? Or what about this one? Your cat can have its own personal Death Star. And no, this is a self-cleaning litter box for only $700. I love it. Now you want one. Save your pennies, buddy. And listen, so we are in a world where there is entire industries whose purpose is to find people with a sense of inner peace and steal the inner peace from them so that they can sell them something to fill it. And we every time you scroll past an ad, every time you drive past a billboard, every time, that's what's going on. Because how many wants do you actually have? I have a couple, but not many. You know? And so what do we do when we have this responsibility and this want that just stretches? I want more, I can do more. And by the way, did you notice who wrote this psalm about giving up responsibility and wants? This psalm of David. What was David's job in Israel? He was the king. Not the president, not the prime minister, not a senator. He does not have checks and balances or term limits. There is no constitution for him to answer to. He is the entire government. He's it. And the man that is the entire government of this nation that is actually rising and becoming a significant military power. It is about to peak economically. It will under his son Solomon. I mean, he has massive decisions to make, and he looks at the borders of his country and says, they can stop there. That's fine. I don't need any more. He can look at the stock market and say, I don't need it to go up. We do not need it to go up. We don't need it to go up. We're okay. He can rest. He knows what it's like to give up responsibility. All the decisions that come with being king, he's okay with saying, in this space, I don't need to worry about that. I'm not carrying that responsibility home. And we are so worried about carrying work home and home to work, and how are we going to keep track of our kids while we're out on a date, and what are we going to do about our friends who are making different decisions than, and the king can say, I just don't need to worry about that. Do you realize how punk rock that is? Now, maybe I think that because I was working on the sermon while listening to Rage Against the Machine and The Clash. That was my soundtrack. But how brave is that? And would that be for one of us in our culture to say, I don't need more responsibility. I don't need any wants. I can lay those things down. And in this space, I am not carrying any of that. Even though the entire world around me is telling me to live a life without limits and to have more and to do more and to expand and adventure and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to feel bad if I don't. In this space, I'm saying no. I am just going to be at peace. I'm going to let go of the anxiety, and I'm going to be at peace. I'm going to let go of the guilt, and I'm going to be at peace. I mean, what would that be like? That state, I had to learn. It's called having holy indifference. Now, I didn't like the word indifference at first. I thought what they were saying is apathy. I thought they were saying it's like that checked out, I don't care, whatever kind of thing. When these writers, ancient writers, are talking about a holy indifference, what they're talking about is the ability to say, God, I have wants and I have responsibilities, but whatever you want is fine. Whatever you want is better. You look at Jesus in the garden. Jesus had a want. I don't want to get crucified. But remember what he said? Not what I will, but what you will. That's holy indifference. Paul had wants and responsibilities. He wanted something. So he left home in safety and planted churches and was beaten and put in prison and executed because he wanted something. He had wants. And there's responsibility that comes with that. But we see in him over and over again, like in Philippians, he says, I know what it is to have food. I know what it is to be hungry. I know what it is to have everything I want. I know what it has to be in need. But I've learned the secret of being content in all things. I can lay that stuff down, and that holy indifference is hard for me because I was trained that indifference is bad. Being able to say whatever is bad. John Wesley, the founder of our movement, had this prayer that he would teach people to pray. And it's just a piece of the prayer, but this is that thing. He says, I'm no longer my own, but yours. Put me to what you will, rank me with whom you will. Put me to doing, put me to suffering. Let me be employed for you or laid aside for you. Exalted for you or brought low for you. Let me be full. Let me be empty. Let me have all things. Let me have nothing. I freely and wholeheartedly yield all things to your pleasure and disposal. He's trying to bring people to the place of saying, I can receive limits from you, God, like a gift. And it's okay. You want me to go up the chain at work? Great. You want me to go down the chain at work? Great. You want me to have a job? You want me to be unemployed? I can do either. I have preferences, but I can do either. I mean, maybe God wants to expand your capacity and stretch you into things you had never thought you could do. Great. Maybe you have things that no one will ever get a chance to see, and that's okay too, if that's where God leads. And how he has this thing, doesn't that just feel like wrong? And God is pushing on us to know that he's God and we're not. And he has this thing in verse 2. He says, I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. You know, a child, when we're born, mom is not just a source of affection. Mom is also the source of food. And we have something we want from mom, and we have to figure out how to get it, mainly by screaming, right? That's how we get what we want, is we scream and then we get. And so mom, when she is seen, she is both affection and love and food. But when a child is weaned, those two things can be separated. And when we see mom, she can just be someone we can be with, not someone we have to get something from. And when people start following Jesus, they all at the front end wanted something or felt some sort of responsibility. There were these massive crowds that followed Jesus because they wanted something or had some sense of responsibility, and that's an okay place to start. But everyone that stayed with Jesus made a switch to they didn't want something from him, they just wanted him. And being with him was enough. And you'll notice there were thousands at the front end and just a few at the end. And I'm guessing that there are many of you here and you're starting your journey with Jesus, or maybe you've been with him for a while and it's because you want something from him. You want to get some peace of mind. You want your kids to grow up right. You want to figure out where you're supposed to go in life. You're trying to figure out about life after death. You're whatever. You want something from God, and that's not a bad place to start. Maybe you're here from responsibility's sake. That's not a bad place to start, but we have to switch to wanting something from God to just wanting him. To just wanting him, and in that place, there's peace. In that place, it's like a child that can lean up against their mom and just be okay. God as a mom who just holds us against him, and we're happy. I had to introduce entire new practices into my rhythm because I didn't know what that meant. I had to learn, maybe what Ron has been talking about for the last couple of weeks, like quiet time or chair time, 15 minutes, a day with the Lord. I kind of had a practice like that, and maybe that's what you need to step into. Maybe you're more active than that. You need to go walk while you pray, or turn up the worship music in your office cubicle, and people can think you're weird, and it's fine. I had to learn new practices for me, like silence. Now, I'm a tip-the-scale extrovert, and silence for me is evil. I don't like it. I don't like quiet. 6 months into my marriage, have I shared this? I was sitting on the couch with my wife, and she looked at me, and she says, "Do you ever feel the need to be alone?" You're laughing because you're sharper than I am. I looked at her and said, "No." And she said, "I do." Right. Let's be over here. I had to learn 3 times a week. I set a timer for 10 minutes, sometimes more, and I just sit with Jesus. Not to get anything from him, not to tell him about what's on my mind, just to be with him. And every time that my mind wanders is a time that's a chance to come back to the Lord. And I was so outside of my box. I had to learn to pray new prayers that were different. I wasn't good with prayers that were written. I thought that those were like unspiritual. And I found these practices. People had been walking these like trails in the woods with the Lord for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. And like this prayer is in a book called Celtic Daily Prayer that I learned to use. If we can pull that prayer up. There you go. In peace, I will lie down. For it is you, O Lord, you alone who makes my rest secure. Be it on your own beloved arm, O God of grace, that I shall in peace awake. I had to learn how to pray things like that slowly. I had to learn how to pull breath prayers back into my life where when I exhale, I just run a little prayer over my lips. For a long time, it was, I need you again. I need you again. I need you again. And after a couple of hours of going about my day, picking up my kids, driving around, cooking dinner, and every time I breathe out, just saying, I need you again. Or Psalm 27 was one of mine. Every time I inhale, the Lord gives rest, and exhale to those he loves. The Lord gives rest to those he loves. My family and I have had to start practice Sabbath again, which I can't believe we dropped that one. God says, I've got a command for you. I want you to take 24 hours a week just to do rest, worship, and things you love. And we're like, no. Want to make my life harder than it has to be. No. And God's like, fine, I guess. Us Protestants, we're good at the other 9 commandments, and Sabbath, we're like, I don't know what to do with that. And so we've had to practice Sabbath together as a family to recapture a sense of peace and rest. No responsibility, no wants in this space. This is holy. It's holy. just get to be with the Lord. David wraps this up with this command. He says, Israel, hope in the Lord. Put your hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore. That word hope in the original language is equally translated hope and wait. It's a verb. To put hope in is to wait. I can trust that you're going to make this okay. I can wait on you. I hope in you. All the responsibility, all the wants, you're going to sort that out right now. I don't need a thing. I'm just with you. And so what I would like to invite you into is just to take a step towards dropping the responsibility and the wants and to just be with the Lord. And look, he may give you more responsibility or more wants. That's fine. But as long as it's from him and not stuff that we pick up on our own, do you know what it's like to just be with the Lord? I had to learn. Let's pray together. God, would you calm our hearts and quiet our ambitions? Would you teach us to receive limits like a gift? Would you teach us to just enjoy being with you like a mom holding their kid? We love you, God, and we want to love you more. Amen.